Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way that women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook, so you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one-size-fits-all protocols, just real answers, deep-rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now, on to our show. And good morning, Madison.
Good morning.
I'm so excited that you are here and that we're having, as we joked, an adult conversation over Zoom and not just over social media. Um, and I think, Madison's a wealth of knowledge and just so relatable. And she's going to come on and she was, had this beautiful health and fitness coaching business, turned stay-at-home mom, has had a really beautiful, unique story with her first kid and two second kids, twins. And she'll tell you that story. That'll be really beautiful. Now she's just figuring out postpartum life as mom of three, and trying to figure out, her health and her fitness journey and with motherhood. So I think it's going to be really relatable, and I'd love for you to give us a little more intro on who you are and give us a little bit of deets on how you're handling all of it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you, Shannon, for having me. I was joking with Shannon right before too of being a mom with three kids under three, that this is like an exciting time getting to be on here and chat and have real adult interactions and not just talking to small kids and babies all day. So I'm excited to just get to chat further, but a little bit about me and my background. So I know Shannon because I had my own health and wellness company as well that I started when COVID was happening. And I did that for a few years leading up to my pregnancy with my son, my first son, Kason. Once I had him, I just really fell into that role of being a mom. I loved it. I could not picture myself without him. And I really just wanted to dive deeper into that. And so I slowly scaled back my business, dissolved it completely when he was about one, and have just been living the stay-at-home mom life. And then I ended up getting pregnant again with twin girls, unexpectedly, spontaneous, identical twin girls, which happened to be one of the most rare high-risk pregnancies that you could have for twins. That they are called momo twins, which stands for monoamniotic monochorionic. So they share the same sac and the same placenta. And it is a 0.1% chance of having these types of twins. That's how rare it is. And it just comes with a whole long list of potential complications and whatnot. So, yeah, that was a very interesting journey. We are very blessed, very thankful that my pregnancy did have no complications despite everything. But I did have to live in the hospital for the last 40 days of my pregnancy as a precaution for constant monitoring, which was an interesting time, leaving your family behind, leaving at the time he was what, 1.5, leaving my son home with my husband, because I was his sole caregiver. I stayed at home with him. And so now having to have that shift and my husband be that solo dad role for 5+ weeks was challenging. But here we are. The girls are healthy and happy and growing and laughing. And it's just so amazing to see.
It really is amazing, when you think about having twins in general and then having Momo twins, like, oh my goodness. And I know so many people um can relate to your story and it's so rare, yet I'm sure you've connected with other women. You're like, oh my God, this is a little more common than
Yeah.
I thought. And, just being so grateful. They're so wonderful and cute and, growing, but it's also difficult, right? Like, so I'd love for you to describe a little bit on how that transition's been from not 2 to 1, 3 to 1. And I know they were also preemies, so, that was a different kind of challenge.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think having them being our second pregnancy, I felt a little bit more at ease and at peace having the experience with my son. I was very thankful for that. I feel like the second time around, I was way more relaxed, and could handle the crying a little bit more. And with having that many kids and being only one person, you just kind of have to expect that, like, you're one person, you're not going to be able to tend to all your kids at once, and you just have to be okay with letting them cry. And I think that is the hardest part to adjust with, is the crying. I had a really bad with my son, really bad postpartum blues, really bad anxiety. The crying with him gave me a lot of anxiety that I actually ended up getting on anxiety medicine with him that helped tremendously. And I was able to get on that for a couple months just to manage my symptoms, was able to get off of it, and have been feeling really good. And then with the girls, I expected that that anxiety was going to come back. And so I got on actually towards the end of my pregnancy, and it made this transition so much better because I had it managed earlier rather than waiting until things got really tough. And so I felt like I was able to transition a little bit more easier because of that. But going back to the NICU experience, honestly, I know the NICU, it's so tough for families that have kids in the NICU. It's something that no parent would ever want to have to go through, but I am so thankful for the experience. My son was in the NICU for meconium for 5 days when he was born. So I did kind of have that experience already. And then the girls were in the NICU for 33 days. And it is a blessing in disguise. Your kids are under the best care that you could imagine. While it's hard seeing them there, it honestly, I felt more prepared as a parent because I had this access to these nurses to constantly ask questions and to teach you how to change diapers for the first time and to do all of these things. And so I felt even more confident being able to bring them home because I had that time spent getting to learn more and to ask questions, rather than if you just go home from the hospital, you're just kind of like thrown into things and trying to figure it out. And so as hard as it is, it honestly truly was a blessing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's maybe also a little different knowing that they were going in there too, like
Right.
kind of having that like mindset shift versus like
Oh,
in my case, it was
100%.
a total, blur,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, obviously, like you take health and fitness very, seriously. It's a very different, it looks very different postpartum. Looks very different postpartum with three. So I'd love to know a little bit on what that journey's looked like for you and how that transition has been, what's kind of changed, what have you found has worked for you, and what maybe has not.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much I could dive into this. Before having kids, you think that, well, you do have the luxury of maybe having a little bit more time to spend on your health and fitness and in the gym. And before having kids, I would be in the gym, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and just take my time and everything would be fine and dandy. And having kids, that's,
Mhm.
not the case anymore. They are your number one priority, but also still you have to find that time to take care of yourself physically and mentally. And so with kids, I have learned to be great at multitasking for sure. Lots of workouts are interrupted with naps and crying and feedings and all the things. And you just kind of, if it matters to you, then you will figure out a way. Sure, there are days where things don't go according to plan, but and realizing you don't have to have that hour to work out. If you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, 15, 30 minutes, it adds up over time. I used to think, oh, if I'm not getting an hour workout, like what's the point? Like that's not, true, right? Like even taking a 5 minute walk matters and it adds up and it compounds over time. And so just doing something for yourself every single day is so important. Like for today, for example, I woke up a little bit later with the girls. I knew I was coming on this podcast and I had the choice of, okay, do I choose to get ready, put on makeup, do my hair, or do I get outside and take our morning walk? Because that's been our routine as we get outside, we take a morning walk. And so I chose to, you know what? I'm going to get outside. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to take our walk. I'm going to come back. I'm going to make my breakfast, and just show up on here with no makeup. My hair's not done. I'm in sweats, and that's what it is, right? I think sometimes as a mom, we have to figure out what our priorities are. And obviously, taking care of your kids is a priority, but also your health should be a priority. So you can continue to show up as your best self for your kids. Many days, our house is just a complete disaster. Toys everywhere, laundry's just been sitting on the floor for going on a week, dishes are in the sink, and I've learned to just have to be okay with that. I'm not going to take the time every single day to clean up and tidy up and X, Y, and Z when I can use that time to go for a walk, do my pelvic floor and core work, do something for my mental health, meditation, take a shower, get a quick workout in. It's finding that balance of like, sure, the house being messy used to give me like a ton of stress and anxiety, but I would rather spend that time cooking and prioritizing my nutrition and taking care of my body so that way I can show up for my kids better. While I think getting ready and putting on makeup and clothes every now and then is also important for your mental health, I try to challenge myself at least 3 days a week to do that. But like I said, um, just movement is medicine. And same with nutrition is almost maybe even more important. And that's a big thing that a lot of moms struggle with is how to properly fuel your body, especially also postpartum too. And so it's definitely been a big shift and it's taken time to kind of figure out our routine and you figure it out eventually.
Well, and I think with kids too, it's like your routine changes like every month or two. So it's like just learning to be flexible with that.
Yes.
Giving yourself, I know there's always like, oh, give yourself grace, but it's like just give yourself that mental flexibility, right? Because if you stay so rigid, that's where so much anxiety comes from. And
100%.
so much of motherhood is you know, dodging bullets and just kind of working with the flow and, just meeting yourself every new step of the way and every new
Mhm.
challenge comes with all of it.
Yeah.
But, I think nutrition you mentioned is a big one, right? And arguably the most important, right? I mean, so often, I'm sure you felt this way too. It's like the workouts are important, but like sometimes I was like straight up too tired to even like move my body. Like, and I would just tell myself, this is not what my body needs. My body needs to move. I'll get out for a walk, but you know what? Working out right now is going to tax it more than it's going to help it. And that was a huge shift. Both of us come from a little more bodybuilding kind of background, right? And it's like more push through it no matter what. And it's just like both of us have a health journey with our adrenals and hormones and autoimmune stuff, right? And how that kind of wrecked us. And so it's being very cautious postpartum to not trigger those things too, right? But nutrition is one of those things that like there is always time. There is always time, even if it's a microwavable,
Mhm.
chicken breast. I ate a lot of chicken nuggets, gluten-free. You're gluten-free too, I believe. So it's like, you have to be a little bit more prepared when you have food sensitivities. But I'd be curious on what has worked for you postpartum, with just making sure that you get in those nutrients. You're also breastfeeding for two, which is a whole nother element, needing to get enough calories.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. The breastfeeding hunger is real. So having to have food on hand is so important, especially also to keep up with my supply. But this time around, I really did take the time to freezer prep a ton of meals, especially because I was in the hospital too those last 40 days. I prepped up even more food to have prepared for my husband and my son because my husband, comes home from work and has to take care of my son. And so I didn't want him to have to worry about food. So I made it my mission for like 2 weeks to prep up as much food as I could. I think I had 4 crock pots going at one time while cooking on the stove. It was like insane. My mom came up to help. And I think I prepped up like probably close to 200 servings of food that lasted us like 3 to 4 months, which was amazing. So definitely would highly recommend meal prepping some food, having a meal train if you have friends or family that can help you out with that, because that is huge when you're in the thick of things postpartum and it's the last thing you want to do is to try to focus on cooking. Um, Also, too, I do utilize a meal prep company this time around. So MegaFit Meals has been my go-to meal prep company. Um, for nutritious meals to have on hand. They stay in our freezer. And if I am too lazy to cook, or we've obviously now at this point ran out of freezer meals, so I'll just grab one of those out and cook it. And that's been great. And it's been nice because it's gluten-free, dairy-free, allergy-friendly. It's one of the only meal prep companies I've been able to find that have been allergy-friendly for people that have dietary restrictions like us. But if you can invest a little bit in a meal prep service, Factor, I feel like I've heard is another good one. There's a ton out there, but finding ones, HelloFresh or whatever, just something that you can be able to do that's not going to take a ton of time, has also been a huge, huge game changer for sure, keeping up with my nutrition, and getting those calories in. And then, like you said, finding quick, easy things like pre-made chicken breasts and microwavable rice, or popping in a sweet potato and some frozen vegetables. Like, postpartum is the time where you're not going to have the most glamorous, tasty, delicious meals. Like, nutrition, it's a balance between, yes, you want to eat things that are good and taste good, but also like that are good for your body. And not every meal is going to be this 5-star delicious tasting meal. It needs to also serve a purpose. And postpartum healing is a lot. It's a lot of work. You have that, what do they say, dinner size plate wound still inside of you that takes a long time to heal. And so you also have to think of that and how to fuel your body properly. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've definitely DoorDash things, and I've definitely eaten the Oreos and the chips and grabbed the quick snacks and the things like that. And it's just finding that balance of still trying to fuel your body properly. But also, it's tough at times too. Like, I don't want women to feel discouraged if, like, oh, I'm not, making these super nutritious meals. Like, being a mom, and especially being a first-time mom, if you are a first-time mom, it's survival mode a lot of the times, and you're figuring it out and you're doing the best you can. I mean, your whole world has just changed. You're figuring out your baby, you're figuring out how to heal for the first time postpartum, and how to now navigate your relationship with your partner. And it's just, there's a lot of moving pieces. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of change. And that's why, eating and fueling your body appropriately will literally help that tenfold. That's one the biggest struggle I see with working with postpartum women is, their hormones are going crazy. They're crabby, they're tired, they're irritable, they just don't feel good, right? Maybe they feel puffy. Maybe they're gaining weight with breastfeeding. They thought they would just drop it all, right? It's like, there's so many different elements to it. And I'm like, and some of it, not all of it, can be helped with balancing your blood sugar, eating enough. And then there's all these supply issues with women and it creates so much
Yes.
stress, right? And I've been there too. And it's like, for some, it's just purely eating more, not for everybody, right? And so it's like just learning how to do that is one of the most beautiful things, but keep it easy. One of my go-tos is because both of us are gluten dairy free. I also don't eat soy or eggs. And so I can't just go to a store and like pick up anything. I have to be pretty strategic, but Costco is really great for like Kevin's. Well, you can get these anywhere. It's like big Kevin's meals. Like
Love those.
always had those in there with microwavable rice. Like and microwavable, like I think I had microwavable peas and like broccoli. Actually, no, my baby hated broccoli because that's another stressor with like food. Ugh, I swear my baby like didn't like anything I ate. So it's just, but finding what they can eat, and um those Kevin meals were awesome. They're allergen friendly, decently, healthy. During the winter, like bone broth is so healing postpartum. I made my
All
own.
my crock pot meals were used with bone broth. When it said add water, I was like, no, I'm dumping in this high protein, nourishing bone broth.
That's such a good way to like
Good hack.
super small hack, make quinoa or rice and like make it with bone broth. You get more protein, more nourishing. And I don't know how many times I've eaten bone broth rice and dropped it on my baby while breastfeeding. So, I literally would be eating like salmon and rice while like breastfeeding and like, like
Food crumbs just all over them.
all over. And it's like I know women too, they're like, oh, I feel guilty for doing that. I was like, you're feeding your baby, but how is that baby gonna get fat too? You gotta feed yourself too. Um, and half of that was frozen. That was just like boop, microwave. And I was gonna say treats, but snacks, just keeping snacks that are nourishing in the house. Not all of them. Like, people, I'm sure you got this too when you were in the health industry. It's like, oh, you only keep healthy snacks in the house. I was like, no, girl, like I have
Yeah.
gluten-free Oreos. Like I got but I do the ones that like feed like that I know fuel my body still in a decent way. Um, but I don't know if you got it. I had like really bad sugar cravings postpartum.
Like,
This time around, I did for sure. It was like I could not get enough sweets. It was like I just had to have something sweet, especially after every meal, late night. It was just, yeah, the sugar cravings after the twins were high. I had no cravings, surprisingly, during the twin pregnancy. I was able to eat mostly all more my normal stuff. This time around with my pregnancy with my son, I had all the cravings, junk food, fast food, food that I hadn't eaten in like years that I can't even eat because like honey buns that I can't even eat anymore because I'm gluten free. All the sugar candy, just like with him, it was bad during pregnancy.
so funny how everybody's just so like different. I could tell, I mean, this is a whole different podcast episode, but like I had gotten my gut, my adrenals, my everything in such a beautiful place before I got pregnant with my fertility prep. And then I got pregnant and felt pretty good with my first kid and just like felt good and everything was smooth sailing. But then I had a kind of traumatic birth and it was like all over the place. I wanted a natural unmedicated birth, got every intervention possible, including an emergency C-section, but all of that plus the medications afterwards, like everything just threw my gut off. And, I knew I had some candida. I knew I had like all these different things that like I couldn't really do anything about because I was breastfeeding. So it's like you're like so thirsty. You want the sweets. All I wanted was chocolate, dude. And my kid hated like had severe reflux with chocolate. So
Oh,
it's just like and beef and strawberry. So I was like, no gluten, no dairy, no soy, no eggs, no peanuts, no broccoli, no chocolate, no beef. It's like,
wow. It's like, what am I going to survive off of grass at this point? Anger.
but that's why prepping was super important, right? Like it was boring. Like I was boring. Like people always think like I need to, you mentioned it, like make these big old meal. Mm-mm. Microwavable chicken breasts, chicken nuggies in the air fryer with some microwavable peas. Like make it easy for yourself and stock up
Yeah.
and always have something on hand. You mentioned your meal prep stuff, like just always something that like you can grab and go. And then once you eat it, make sure to replace it. You know?
Postpartum brain, you will forget things very quickly. But yeah, to your point, like this smoothie that I'm drinking right now, I've been having this for probably a year and I'm not sick of it yet. It's just a high protein, nutrient dense smoothie. Smoothies are really great too to get in lots of nutrients, micronutrients, protein packed, because that's another big thing that women don't eat enough of is protein and which is also very important. So yeah, just finding those go-tos are huge.
Yeah, protein, protein, protein. Like literally can't say it enough. You want to feel a little less irritable, a little bit more energized, a little bit more full, and just tissue healing, literal wound healing. You have to have more protein. And that's the harder, like it's way easier to eat the carbs and the fats, right? You usually don't have to prepare those as much, but keep like chopsticks. Like that's
Mhm.
always, I think, our one of our go-tos, right? Chopsticks. I have a protein smoothie every morning because a can of eggs and I am boring, but I know it takes me 5 seconds. I have never skipped that. Even at the depths of my postpartum, like it was never missed because I feel better. And
Yeah.
when I have that, not it's not everybody's cup of tea. I would have protein bars that didn't have chocolate. Shout out Go Macro because they had like breakfast ones that had no chocolate on it and that like my kid and I liked. So and just finding that and having it on hand is just creates less stress. One less thing you have to worry about. But if you could give some advice to maybe a new mom or a second time mom who's wanting to just improve their health, improve their fitness, is kind of in the depths of this, feeling a little overwhelmed, what would you tell them?
Well, before I get into advice, I'm staring right here at my walking pad. My walking pad has been one of the greatest investments I've ever made. I got it off Amazon for like, I don't know, 150, 200 bucks. And this thing has never failed me. I will hop on during the nap time. I will hop on here and there if I have 5 minutes, like going back to the beginning. Everything adds up. So yes, your workouts, everything's going to get interrupted. Everything is going to take 1,000 times longer. That's just the nature of now having kids, and that's okay. Doing small little things here and there, just do it. And I think to Shannon's point, like she said earlier, is also listening to your body, right? Like the sleep exhaustion is real. So maybe a workout's not feasible. Get outside for a quick little walk if you can too. I have every morning dread getting outside for my walk because I'm tired. We're waking up a lot with the twins in the middle of the night right now. And it's like I'm literally on the verge of tears thinking about like having to get outside for a walk. But like the minute I get outside and start walking, I feel instantly so much better. Just the fresh air, the sunshine. And then if I don't have time to do that or access to do that because of the weather, getting on my walking pad during their nap time. And like I said, everything else can wait. The laundry can wait. The house cleaning can wait. I think that is a big adjustment and a big piece of advice that I think I wish someone probably would have told me is like, your kids are not going to remember the mess. They're going to remember how you treated them, how you loved them, how you showed up for them, how you played with them, and all of those things. And it's true. I remember, my family growing up, just how my parents played with us, and I don't remember if our house was messy or not, or what all of that stuff. So I think just try not to stress about that. All that stuff you can get to later. You can have help to come over if you have access to have help come over and do all of those things for you so you can focus on yourself and your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. I had somebody tell me once it wasn't about like the time you spent with your kids, it's the presence, right? And it's like that's what they remember is also just that your full presence. And that's hard as a mom where you're like your to-do list is dinging in your head like, constantly. And it's like your kids pick up on that energy, they really do. And all of that can wait. So I love that. And I love these little pieces of advice and, just realism for women kind of in the thick of it. If people wanted to follow along a little bit more on what you do, kind of, I know you are super relatable on your social media and everything that you're going through too. Where can they find you?
Yes, so my Instagram handle is at Mads, MADS _ gains, GAINZ. And I try to just show up as real and raw and authentic as I can in a world of social media where you just see the picture perfect and that's not reality. So try to share as much chaos as I can and that, it's not picture perfect over here.
Never, never is. So I love that so much. So thank you so much for being here. Definitely, if you guys found this helpful, share it with another mom who might need to hear the same story. Go follow Madison and just reach out to her if you want to touch base. And thank you guys for being here. And thank you, Madison, for being here.
Thank you, Shannon.